not comply. Words to live by from the Daily Mojo.
So if you live in Virginia and your preferred way of spending your free time is going over to Pornhub, you put that web address in, and then you will get an actress telling you, look, you can't watch that website here. And the reason why is Governor Youngkin and the legislature, and actually there's a bipartisan bill because the legislature is partially controlled by Republicans, passed legislation that now requires that you use photo ID to verify that you're of age to be viewing that kind of material. And they said, look, we don't really think this is the right way to go, and therefore we're going to block access in to anybody with a Virginia IP address. Now, that, on one hand, I think it's great that there will be fewer people viewing it. I'll admit I'm not proud of it. I have. And there are a lot of positive reasons for people not to, because porn does contribute to human trafficking, number one. And number two, it's really just a bad use of your time. And it's also creating this negative environment of people being single and not getting married and having, families, all of which matters. However, the reason why I want to talk about this today, well, literally, that's what they're doing. But I want to talk about this today because this is an example of how Republicans are doing the right thing the wrong way. What the problem with this law is, number one, it has not done anything to explain to the public that human trafficking is an issue and child exposure to this kind of material is an issue. And they don't understand why. You'll just see a lot of people, and they'll be following the Senate Majority Leader, Louise Lucas, who is terrible at her job. But what did she tweet out? She said, well, I can't get onto Pornhub this morning. Never mind why a 60-something woman wants to get onto Pornhub, but she asked that. And there are a lot of people who are going to follow that and say, well, this is unfair, this is wrong. Now, when we don't explain why we do things, the other side wins, and ultimately that pushes the arc of our country toward the left.
I just went to Pornhub to see if it would come up here. What? I'm a of age male. I can look at whatever the hell I want. I just wanted to see if it would come up here in Texas. It does, but it brings up an interesting point. Number one, shouldn't it be the parents who are deciding what websites their children can and can't see? Number
Absolutely.
one, that this is just a gateway into more of the nanny state. And I agree, we don't need kids looking at Pornhub, but it's the parents' responsibility. And this is just another way of shoving off that responsibility on the government. And number two, like you said, it doesn't work. I mean, I was on the Budweiser. Yeah, I was on the Budweiser site yesterday, and I put in my birthday. And this was just, didn't have to have an ID, but I put in my birthday as March 26, 1909.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, come on in.
It's funny. They have dates that go back that far. I think, wait a minute, is somebody born in 1909 still using our website? Yeah.
Right. Obviously it just has to be any date other than what today's date in 21 or 18 years ago. So that doesn't necessarily work, but it is dangerous to, again, hand this kind of power to the government to limit what we can and cannot. It's freedom of speech. Is it freedom of speech? Is that what this boils down to? Or it is freedom of speech?
Yeah. And here's the other question. Do you really want to take your government-issued ID and give it to the people who run websites like that and say, yeah, look, this is me? And now, as a friend pointed out, if that is, if this is sort of information is being turned over to the government for verification, if that's what the goal is, then can that be FOIA'd in some form? So at some point, could somebody come along and say, well, hey, I see that Phil Bell's running for office here. I see he says, we should be pro-family, do all these things. Let's just go ahead and FOIA. Oh, I see. June 26, 2025, he went over to that website. Yeah. So that's creating a database that is negative, just the same way we look at every idea of gathering data on us and saying, look, we don't want to do that. This is yet another example. So again, the intentions were good. The execution is bad, but ultimately we are going to lose. Why? Because we have made government intervention more popular. We have not told people why we should go down this road of doing this. Number two. Number three, we've taken away personal responsibility and personal choice. And number four, what will the end up being? Well, you're going to have more and more government intervention and more leftists, because it will be the leftists who follow this path, coming in and telling you what you can and can't do, or having to show your ID in order to do it. Think about it when it comes to guns. Think about it when it comes to any of those things we don't like. This is the same.
Yeah, they introduce it. They get, this is the camel's nose under the tent, under the wall of the tent. They introduce it this way, and then they carry it on into other. I don't believe ever that government's intentions are good. There's just, I don't trust them to the extent where I just never believe that what they're doing is because they love us and want us to be happy and safe. It's some way that they're looking at, down the future. It's like LBJ in his autobiography about the Civil Rights Act, and he said, I'll have these ends voting for Democrats the rest of their life. And it's like, so they're all the same.
And still are. Yeah. And the craziest part is, no matter how much that quote is shared, no matter how much that information is available, no matter how easily you can get to it, you don't need to show your ID, by the way, in order to do it. You still have people who say, oh, no, that can't possibly be true, or I don't want to hear it. So, yeah, let's not pave that road in the first place.
Right. It just doesn't make any sense. We did the ATF thing. Are you familiar with the ATF frame and receiver rule? I don't know if you've been following that or not.
I thought, was this the pistol brace or this was something else? Because I heard it was overturned, correct?
It was, and I thought, this is the Fort Worth, the Firearms Policy Coalition, and the Coalition's Action Foundation announced that a federal judge has granted summary judgment for the plaintiffs, vacating the ATF's frame or receiver rule and preventing the federal government from enforcing it. The case presents a question of whether the federal government may lawfully regulate partially manufactured firearm components, related firearm products. So it's I think this is what they term the ghost guns, the kits you can buy, which I know people have put those kits together, and they do it it's the fun of putting something together. Right. No criminal in his right mind buys a kit gun to put it together and plan a heist. They go down to the corner and they buy one with the serial number ground off. It's correct. It's common sense, but it's the same people who won't look up the LBJ quote. They just they have things in their mind one way, and they won't deviate from that at all, which is dangerous.
Remember, it's important, and this goes to the whole conversation we've been having. There are a lot of people in government who just want to control your life. And a lot of those people exist outside of government, but they tend to, congregate in government because that's where they can most easily do it. They don't like you having freedom. They don't like you having the ability to defend yourself. They don't like you having the ability to be economically successful. That's why they'll do things like support wealth taxes, which is another derivative, believe it or not, of this pistol brace rule, because just like the pistol brace rule says, ghost gun rule, just like they can't regulate a partially made firearm, well, they also want to take your money that you haven't made yet just because it's grown on paper. You think about that. Your house is increased in value by $100,000. Here, pay a tax on it. You don't have that cash. You may never realize that. Just like these parts may never become a gun, but they want to take something from you and control you. So that's what's so important to remember. And it's going to be the exact same playbook from that side on all of these issues until we get wise and say, number one, we're going to teach people about what we believe in. Number two, we're going to take our message to them. And number three, we're going to make sure that they're never able to pursue these things unchallenged. So I'm glad there was a group out there that went after this, and hopefully we can use that precedent and go forward.
Absolutely. And it also, the irony of the fact that the left, those who want to control us, they will view and unassemble just the pieces and parts as a gun, and yet they will not look at an unborn child as a baby.
Right.
The pieces and parts there.
That is a great point. That is a great point.
It is a bit ironic, more so than rain on your wedding day.
Yes.
All right. So why should folks, that song bugs me. Why should folks get involved over at Freedomworks?
Well, this ghost gun rule, that's exactly what it was. It was a proposed rule. Freedomworks fights those proposed rules, those negative regulations that will take away your freedom. If you want to get on the ground floor of that, go to freedomworks.org, sign up to join our freedom teams, help us do that to make sure future efforts like this are derailed. And one quick thing, since you have it on the screen, I am lucky enough to be in the movie The People's House. I'll be one of the folks. So please, on the 25th, go ahead and watch. And if you're in the D.C. area, come see us the day before.
Nice. I will be expecting my autographed 8x10 glossy.
I will get that for you, without a doubt.
All right, bud.
Do not comply. Words to live by from the Daily Mojo.